so I need everybody to flip to the very back page where you have the map. We are now going to talk about what is called a scale. Does anybody know where the scale on this map is?
No.
Where's the scale on this map? Anybody know?
Oh,
Yes, point to it. There you go. All right, I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so we typically in the U.S. use the measurement of miles. So this bottom one, I know it's really hard to read, but I double checked it yesterday. This is 300 miles. So you might want to write that off to the side because it's really difficult to read. So this line right here on the map is equal to 300 miles in real life. I want everybody to put your ruler up against that line. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and say that it is closest to the measurement 3/4 of an inch long. Okay? So we're going to go to the very first page and we're going to write at the bottom where it says ratio. We're going to write 3/4 of a mile, or sorry, 3/4 of an inch to 300 miles. I'm going to write that a little less sloppy underneath there. So 3/4 inch to 300 miles. That means if we are using the same map, which we're going to use for the entire project, every time we measure 3/4 of an inch, that's going to equal 300 miles. Okay? So we're going to use the measurements that we have to figure out what the miles are. Because we can't say that we're only going to drive 5 inches because that would be silly. We're going to drive more than that. Okay? So we're going to talk real quick about how to fill in the next table. And that's going to be our task for today. Okay? So we're going to start with 2 cities and their distance in inches. Okay? So I'm going to pick 2 to show as an example. You can write this down, but I want you to write it down not in the table because you need the table for your own. All right, somebody give me their first destination. Kansas City to where? Saray? Perfect. So I'm going to find LA, find Kansas City, and draw my line. All right, so I'm going to measure, hey guys, voices off. I'm going to measure this distance right here. And I'm going to say that it is close to 3.5 inches. Would you agree? Yeah. Okay, so here's how I would fill out this table. Again, you are not going to fill it out on the table. You can write it up here, but I'm going to put it on my table. You write it up here because you need the table. So I'm going from Kansas City to LA, and yes, you can abbreviate on this page, and it is 3.5 inches. Okay? I'm going to use the same scale every single time because that is the scale of the map. Okay? So we're going to set up a proportion, and it's always going to start with 3/4 inch on top and 300 miles on bottom because that is our scale. So every single one of these proportions, your first one's going to be 3/4 over 300. We know inches because we just measured inches. So whatever we know, we're going to put on the top here. 3.5. What we are trying to find out is how many miles is that in real life. Okay? So your proportion's always going to look like 3/4 inch over 300 miles is equal to however many inches your distance is over x. Then we're going to cross multiply and solve. This is where you might want to start putting those fractions into decimals. So when I cross multiply, I'm going to do 3/4 times x, and I'm just going to go ahead and change it to 0.75 times x, because I can do that on my calculator. Then I'm going to change 3.5 to what? 3.5 is equal to what? 3.5. I was not prepared. Okay, so I'm going to take 3.5 times 300, which is 1,050 miles. Or sorry, 1,050. Okay, so I just cross multiplied my proportion. Then I'm going to solve for x by doing what? How do I get this x by itself? How do I get this x by itself? It's attached to 0.75. Yes. Oh my goodness. You do know how to do it. So x is equal to 1,050 divided by 0.75. Now, you are going to find out when you divide by a decimal, your number is going to increase. That's okay. My answer was 1,400. So that means I'm going to travel 1,400 miles between Kansas City and LA. Okay? So I write my two cities and the distance in inches. I set up my proportion. Always start with 3/4 inch over 300. Put your inches on top and your x on bottom. Cross multiply. So 0.75x equals 3.5 or 3.5 times 300. And then divide. Then you get your miles. Okay? So you're going to fill that in with the table from the first page. So you're going to go from Kansas City to your first city, and then from your first city to your second city, and then from your second city to your third city, all through here. Step 6 is to find the total distance traveled during your road trip. Questions? Yes. Yes, this page is your task for today. Okay, pages 1 and 2, all the way through step 6. Due Thursday. Okay? All right.